Hello and welcome everyone again into another video, and in today's video we are going to be talking about the best teams in the Open Great League. I know I made a video a couple weeks ago. It still have the same background, but in this one it's actually going to be a very updated version. Like most of the teams are slightly has some changes because the first video was like early in the season, so it was basically what I expected people to run, and most of like those teams were like built around stuff that were buffed. But now, since we had 1 week of Great League, so technically people have something in mind that they want to run for the entire season. So in this video we will be taking a look at the Open Great League meta and some solid teams, some top performing teams, some top performing Pokemons. And in this video we're going to start by the main Pokemons. Great League kind of like has a wide variety of options for the first 2 days. After that, you'll just see like 3 or 4 teams at max. We talked about most of these Pokemon, so in today's video, I'm going to go briefly about the main Pokemons. Then we're just going to move into something which is like we talk more about the teams rather than the Pokemons, because you don't care about how. Because I will generally explain how to play each Pokemon whenever I'm featuring a specific team. So I feel like that's going to be more detailed. And in the main lead, like Skarmory is a solid lead, Ape is a solid lead, Feraligatr is a solid lead. It's a solid safe swap and solid closer. But the Pokemon I want to talk about here is Gallade. Gallade, I thought it wouldn't be that good of a Pokemon just because it died to a couple fast moves. But the issue was when I faced it in the OGL is like, I was using Whiscash, and if you have a Whiscash into Gallade, even if you are up a shield, you will lose. Because Gallade gets a move just like that. Like it's like a bullet fast to get to a charge move, and one Leaf Blade is more than enough to KO a Whiscash. Gallade now has technically more of a play in the meta. Something here to mention, Mandibuzz is back to the meta just because people are using Gallade, and Mandibuzz is one of those Pokemons that is able to shut it down. Because close combat from Gallade does like 90% to Licky, so technically Licky is dangerous to use. Poliwrath isn't as good just because Gallade resists the counter, and Gallade needs technically one Leaf Blade plus the couple Psycho Cuts to beat this. Lantern is kind of back more to the meta because Whiscash gets one-shotted by Gallade, while Lantern can technically tank a move. Sableye, you could argue that Sableye is now slightly better than Licky just because of the Gallades and the people are using Gallade. But remember, the downside about Sableye now is that there is a Pokemon called Feraligatr that has Shadow Claw that is spamming moves every 5 seconds, while Sableye needs 6 seconds. Yes, the third will be 5, but by then Feraligatr will already be eating the Sableye. Whiscash, we talked about Whiscash. Quagsire is slightly now better in the current meta than Whiscash just because it's spammier and slightly hits harder. Now, we talked about these Pokemons. Let's talk about the top performing Pokemon. So I'm not going to go deep dive into all of these lists, but I'm going to talk more about some new feature which I said in a couple of videos ago that I will be adding to the top teams content. I call it the top performance. What are the top performance? The top Pokemons are like the Pokemons that do well against the entire meta, which is 400 to 600 Pokemons. The top performance are like the Pokemons that do well against the condensed meta. Like, you won't see people using the entire 600 Pokemons. As an example, how many people are using Bulbasaur, Ivysaur? No one. But people are using couple of like 10 to 20 Pokemons, and generally like what I call the top performance, like those 6 Pokemons do well against the top 20 that people are generally use. And the top performing Pokemons is actually Mandibuzz. So Mandibuzz has been like a sleeper pick with like it was kind of an off meta Pokemon. People using it to punish those safe swap Licky because you beat Licky even down a shield. Empoleon get a massive buff. Now this season it has a Steel Wing, so it's a stab, fast move, pressure, and Empoleon technically has a high attack, so it does lots of damage. So technically Empoleon is the second best performing Pokemon in this cup. Now Empoleon gets destroyed by Feraligatr technically, so Feraligatr do beat Empoleon, but Empoleon in neutral matchups now is a beast. Empoleon used to be the Pokemon that needs at least one stage of difference in resistance, where like an Empoleon need to resist your fast move and charge move. to be able to beat you, which is anything any Pokemon could do. But Empoleon had the pressure where like it had fast move pressure and charge move pressure, because it had Waterfall and Hydro Cannon, while now it can just run Steel Wing with Drill Peck and Hydro Cannon. Registeel is just Registeel, one of the best well-designed Pokemon for OP, not for OP, one of the best designed Pokemons for PvP, not OP. I meant to say PvP, but he is OP in PvP. Why did I say he? It is OP in PvP. Guzzlord. What is Guzzlord good at? Guzzlord is good at beating Lanturns and Mandibuzz, and can do fine into Cress. It's not bad against Reggie. It's a better Zweilous. Zweilous used to struggle because Zweilous usually like into Registeel is kind of a bad matchup because you almost die to the Focus Blast, while Guzzlord can live a Focus Blast. So Guzzlord is good because it destroys the Darks and the stuff that lose to Dragons, but it benefits from the subtyping Dark, which help it against the Mandibuzz. Cresselia is technically the best Pokemon now in the entire meta. I don't see Licky within the top 15. Why? Well, Licky now is not... Licky is known for being a good neutral Pokemon, but it's not known for the sweeping. These Pokemons like Empoleon can sweep now. Registeel can sweep. Cresselia is a hard punishing Pokemon. If you don't have a Cress answer, it's going to... You're going to have a bad time. Unless the opponent just like fumble the game. But like they will just shield for no reason, and then that's where like Cress start falling off whenever like opponents has shields. So these are the top performing Pokemons. Now moving into something something that we admire here in the channel, we call it the top 3 PvPoke. What's our top 3 PvPoke? It's simply number 1 on PvPoke, followed by number 2 on PvPoke, now followed by number 3 on PvPoke. So the number 1 Pokemon here is Cresselia, number 2 is Reggie, number 3 is Shadow Quagsire. Why Shadow Quagsire? 2 Mud Bombs from Shadow Quagsire can kill any Pokemon in a neutral matchup with the fast move pressure. Okay, 2 Mud Bombs from Shadow Quag plus the Mud Shot are enough to KO most of the Pokemons. Now, this is the top 3 PvPoke, but it's not something that you will see. But what we will see is what we call it the top performing teams. Top performing... Yes, this is supposed to be caps. Top performing teams. And the top performing team, according to PvPoke, is Altaria with Lantern and Skarmory. Why Altaria? Well, there are so many Galeeds and Feraligators, and you need something that can outbulk them plus do some oppressive fast move pressure, and that's where Altaria is good at. Altaria has gotten like technically 3 nerfs so far. Well, I think it's 2. They nerfed the Sky Attack, then they nerfed it again. Lantern is the Pokemon that punish the Feraligator, and Skarmory is the Pokemon that punish Goodra, the Pokemon that punish Gallade. So this is technically the top performing team against the stuff that we mentioned at the condensed meta. Now another solid high performing team, which was a team that I used a couple seasons, the last season and the season before, which is Shadow Dragonair with a Gligar. It's preferred to be a Shadow with a Gligar. In the current meta, Gligar is preferred to be a Shadow one, and followed by Lantern. Why Lantern? Lantern is the best Pokemon coverage wise that can cover all the Dragonair weaknesses. If you want to cover Dragonair weaknesses, just give it a Lantern. Whiscash is the second best, but like Lantern is the one that covers it the best. If you want a Gallade team, this is technically the third best performing team. Usually like the third is the team that can beat the first and the second. And this team technically doesn't beat the second, but it has Gallade, and which Gallade gives like a hard time for those, because nothing here appreciates close combat or double or 2-leaf blades. So why Mandibuzz? Again, I'm trying to find a team with Gallade and Mandibuzz because I feel like this is a very underrated core now. Gallade with Mandibuzz. It's an extremely underrated core. It loses to Charm, and that's where like we have Lantern here to be the Charmers. If you are a Basti user, I know I don't feature Basti teams, but that doesn't mean we cannot recommend Basti teams. Hey, we build teams for everyone, including people who runs Basti. So last season there was a team called Licky, Annihilate, Basti. Okay. Then people replaced Licky this season with Dugong. But technically, you could also replace Annihilate with Gallade. So you could do either of those leads. And if you don't have Dugong, you could do Licky with Basti in the back. What I will be running, I was running technically this team, and this is my favorite Great League in the current meta right now. My favorite Great League team, which is Charjabus with Azu and Annihilate. Why Charjabus? I mean, it destroys Empoleon, Skarmory, and Gallade. There was another lead that annoyed the heck out of me, which I think the Feraligatr. Azu is a neutral to those, and technically you just keep the Feraligatr away from the Annihilate. I mean, Annihilate is not bad into Feraligatr, but try to keep it away from it. I use Azu just to bait out whatever I want to bait out. I safe swap it in when they have a Whiscash in the lead, and then like I try to figure out something. There is a video on the channel called 16 for in the Great League with this meta team, and yeah, you could find it in the channel, and this is the thumbnail. If you are a fan of Azu Double Ghost, you could still run Azu Double Ghost, and the second ghost will actually be Feraligatr. But yeah, sure, it's not a ghost. Well, technically, most of its fast move damage is a ghost, and it's something that can beat the Dark. It's something that can beat whatever beats this. Whatever lose this, Wigglytuff and Skarmory, Altaria. This is something that can beat them out. So these are like the top performing team. Now moving into something I call basic meta teams. These are just solid meta teams that do work well in the, I wouldn't say the high MMR, like the mediocre MMR. I'm not trying to roast your elo, but more like these teams work better at high MMR. Like this team, you will never be able, you usually like will struggle to use it in like, if you're someone who hit 2700 expert elo, never hit legend, this team will be tough to use. But these teams will be better to use because they have coverage against everything. They are like known for being what I call it balanced teams, ABC. A lead, a safe swap, a closer, where like these teams are like you have to bait out something to be able to sweep. Like as an example, with this team, you need to bait out the counter user or the Whiscash, so Bastiodon will be able to sweep. And the best basic meta team is Skarmory, Cresselia with Lantern or Whiscash. And now you see the trend. A, B, C. Lead, safe swap, good coverage / closer to close the game. With these teams, balanced team, you could run them in any order and you will get yourself a solid team. Another solid ABC team, basically Annihilate, Cresselia, Skarmory. This is the lead, safe swap, closer. Lead, safe swap, counter swap. Whenever they swap something into Annihilate, it's supposed to be something that loses to Skarmory. That's how balanced teams usually work. A good neutral team that has a neutral play against most of the meta, it's also an ABC team, Dragonair with Lantern and Vigoroth. Technically here, you don't mind sacking your lead. With ABB teams, you should always save your lead. Vigoroth is extremely underrated, and now with the people using Feraligatr, it's something that gets destroyed by Vigoroth because you double resist the counter. Here is an example of ABB team Whiscash Double Fire. This team used to rely on people running stuff like Trevenant, like Lantern in the lead, stuff like Skarmory, where like Skarmory has no play against this team. But now this team isn't as good because Feraligatr just destroys all of these Pokemons. A Clodsire team. I was trying to find a Clodsire team. It's always tough to use Clodsire, I could swear, because the Pokemon is just not reliable enough. You need to give it a better fast move to pressure the opponent rather than just Mudshot and Poison Sting. And this team, I like it more because it has Mantine, Annihilate, Clodsire. Mantine is extremely decent. It's so good as an anti-meta Pokemon. It can win most of the leads. If you are someone who struggled to win the leads, use Mantine in the lead, but you are going to win 70 to 80% of the leads. If you are someone who doesn't know how to maneuver against some specific team, just use this. If they have Electric, you swap out to Annihilate. That's it. That's literally it. If they have Electric Pokemon, you swap out. If they have Steel, you swap out. And if you're someone who just like tapping dead screen all the way to winning, I recommend Double Charm. I call it No Skill Wicked Team. Shadow, Gramble, Shadow A9, and Wigglytuff. You always end up double shielding Gramble or A9. And that's pretty much it. I tried to keep it as short as possible, but remember, this is OGL. There is so many good options and there is so many recommendations for everyone. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for watching. If you guys like this video, make sure to leave a like. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and see you in the next video. Peace.